exactly the same time that it was for you today.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Recording in progress.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. Wa alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin. La siyama baqiyatillahi fil aradhin. عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue our study of occultation. Some years back, about maybe I can say about maybe 14 years ago, Alhamdulillah, an idea came to my mind that I want to share with you. I have mentioned this in some lectures, and I think this helps us better understand the nature of the life of Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, in this time. In the Quran, everything is mentioned with great accuracy. It's very precise. What we have in the Quran for people who die and return, or Jesus who rises and descends, is different. People who sleep and wake up, again, is different. And based on that, what we have in our hadith about ghaiba and zuhur is again different. So I start first with the issue of ruju or raja'ah. I will share with you the verses, some verses of the Quran. So how can I remove the bar on the top? It doesn't let me to go to the tabs. I can move it. Oh yes, okay. Okay. I hope you can see ayah 99 of Surah Mu'minun. Can you see that?
Yes, Sheikh.
Okay. حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون. When death comes to one of them, they would say, my Lord, send me back, return me. لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت. So that maybe I do some righteous deeds with what I have left. And then of course Allah says, كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون. This is a word they say, they cannot go back, and perhaps even if they go back, they would not, do righteous deeds. And there is barzakh till the day of resurrection. You see, irji'un, ruju' means to come back after death. We have the concept of raja, return. It's the same nature, to come back after death. But then we have something similar but not the same. Therefore, Quran has another terminology. If you go to verse 42 of Surah Zumar, Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtaha. Allah receives the souls when they die. Tawaffi means to receive something, especially when you receive something completely. Allah yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtaha. وَالَّتِي لَمْ تَمُتْ فِي مَنَامِهَا. But those who have not died, Allah receives their souls during their sleep. فَيُمْسِكُ الَّتِي قَضَى عَلَيْهَا الْمَوْتِ. Those that Allah has decided, Allah has a decree, has a qadha, that their life is finished, their soul would be kept, would be held, would not go back and they wake up. They die when they are sleeping. وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى. And releases. Irsal means to let free. In Arabic, if someone doesn't trim his beard and lets the beard grow, it's called arsala lihiyatahu. Irsal means to let free. Yursalul ukhra means release. Allah releases those who are not supposed to die. The soul would be released so they can wake up. You see, here Allah doesn't say وَيُرْجِعُ الْأُخْرَى. There is no mention of ruju'. Although Allah has taken the soul, but ruju' is when the soul is taken almost completely. So death happens, and if after death you come back to this life again, it is called ruju'. But if the soul is taken partially for sleeping and is released, it is called irsal. It's not ruju', it's release. Okay, so we have ruju' for those who die and come back. We have irsal for those who sleep and come back. Then we have the case of Isa alayhi salam. Ala nabiyina wa alihi wa salam. When it comes to Isa alayhi salam, what we have is that Allah raised him. In Surah Nisa, verse 158. بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah raised Isa towards himself. Also, with more maybe details, we can say is this ayah. إذ قال الله يا عيسى, verse 55 of Surah Al Imran. إذ قال الله يا عيسى إني متوفيك. Again we have the issue of tawaffi. But based on the contrast you can understand what is the meaning of tawaffi. Is tawaffi for death? الله يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها. Tawaffi is for death, tawaffi is for sleeping, tawaffi is also possible for raising. Allah said to Isa, Inni mutawaffika, I am taking you, wa rafi'uka ilayya, and I am going to raise you towards myself, as we had rafa'ahu Allahu ilayh. وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah says to Isa that He is going to purify him from those who reject, and perhaps this means no false accusation of them would harm His honor. And Allah is going to raise and put people who follow Isa above those who reject Isa. فوق الذين كفروا. This ayah is very beautiful in discussions about interfaith, Muslim-Christian relations, about Imam Mahdi and Isa alayhi salam. We talk about this with more details. So, this is a third type of tawaffi. Allah takes Isa and raises him towards himself. So when Isa comes back, we don't say rujuu, because he didn't die. We didn't say release, because he was not sleeping. We say nuzul. So for coming back of Isa, we use the term nuzul. Therefore, in the hadith, we have nuzul of Isa. Because Allah has raised him, then he descends. For Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, is none of these. Is not ruju'. If you want to speak technically, because he hasn't died. He's not irsal and release, because he's not sleeping. Yes, he may asleep, but that's not ghaiba. Ghaiba is different from sleeping. Part of his life he can sleep. He is not descending like Isa, because Isa is no longer on this planet. Isa is not living among human beings. When he descends, again he will be living among people. Therefore, in another ayah, Isa says, كُنْتُ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْهِمْ مَا دُمْتُ فِيهِمْ. I was a witness over them as long as I was with them. فَلَمَّا تَوَفَّيْتَنِي كُنْتَ أَنْتَ الرَّقِيبَ عَلَيْهِمْ. When you raised me, you took me and raised me, you were monitoring them. I was not a shaheed or gawah or witness. So, Imam Mahdi is not with Isa right now, so that he descends. It's different. What is it? We call it ghaiba. But ghaiba has two meanings. Ghaiba, sometimes people may think Imam is ghaib, opposite to shuhud, like angels. We believe in ghaib. يؤمنون بالغيب. Part of our belief in ghaib is to believe in Allah who is unseen, to believe in angels who are unseen. Is Imam Mahdi like angels? No. So it's not opposite to shuhud. It's opposite to zuhur, not shuhud. Means he is present, he is visible, but we cannot identify him. We cannot recognize him. Yes, it is possible that sometimes maybe Imam alayhi salam would not be seen by people. Not because he is not visible. Sometimes Allah covers Imam from people who are not supposed to see him. But most of the time, people can see him. They cannot just recognize him. So, if you have understood so far the difference between ruju', irsal, nuzul, and zuhur, now we want to have a more focused discussion about the meaning of ghaibah as far as life of Imam is concerned. When we refer to our Hadith, we find that according to some Hadith, it has been suggested that Imam cannot be seen and he would see them. For example, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, in a hadith that Nu'mani mentions in his Al-Ghaibah. This is a very good book, Ghaibah by Nu'mani. Nu'mani is very reliable. He was a katib, a kind of writer for Sheikh Sadik, and he traveled to many places in order to collect hadith which are reliable, and he has compiled a book, Al-Ghaibah, which is a very important book for Nu'mani. This book has 478 hadith in 26 bab, 26 chapters. Very good book. Anyway, he has this hadith from Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Amirul Mu'mineen says that by Lord of Ali, he swears by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Hujjah of Haq is firm on the earth, moves on the roads, enters houses and palaces, goes to the east and the west, hears people, says salam to people. He sees people but is not seen till the promise of the time of the promise of Allah and the heaven, the call from heaven come. That is the day of joy of children of Ali and his followers. This is in Nu'mani Al-Ghaibah, Al-Ghaibah by Nu'mani, page 144. You see, according to this hadith, Amirul Mu'mineen says that he hears what people say. He says salam to people, he sees people, but he's not seen. From this, maybe someone says, okay, this means that people cannot see him. Although when he says salam to people, it should be someone that people can hear his salam. But maybe we can say sometimes Imam alayhi salam can meet people physically and say salam to them. Sometimes he meets them physically and sees them, but they cannot see him. It's possible. It's at least this sentence can suggest this, but it's not the only evidence. There is another hadith from Imam Sadik alayhi salam this time. It's maybe more famous than the first hadith. Maybe you have heard this hadith. This is in Kitab al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Tusi. It's also in Al-Kafi by Sheikh Kulaini. It's Al-Ghaiba by Sheikh Nu'mani. It's in Kamaluddin wa Tamam al-Ni'ma by Sheikh Sadik. In all these books we have this hadith. يفقد الناس إمامهم يشهد الموسم فيراهم ولا يرونه. People are going to miss their Imam. He would attend Hajj. In the season of Hajj, he is there. He sees people. He's seeing people. Yarahum. Wala yaramnahu. They don't see him. It seems that, again, this is suggesting that they cannot see him. Although someone might say it means that they cannot recognize him, but literally says they don't see him. Also, when Imam Reza alayhi salam was asked about Imam Mahdi, he said that his body will not be seen. So we have such hadith that suggest that people in the time of ghaibah may not see the Imam, even if Imam comes, for example, in front of them, but he would see them. But we have also hadith which suggests it's a matter of not being able to recognize him. For example, Sudair quotes from Imam Sadik alayhi salam in a hadith that Sheikh Sadik has in Kamaluddin wa Tamam al-Ni'ma. Imam Sadik alayhi salam told Sudair, in Qa'im there is a sunnah from Yusuf ala nabiyina wa alihi alayhi salam. Why people deny that Allah may do with Al-Mahdi what he did with Yusuf? You know, brothers of Yusuf met Yusuf, talked to Yusuf, but they didn't know first that he was Yusuf till they said, أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ Yusuf? Are you really truly Yusuf? So they were able to see him. Imam Sadiq then continues, Mahdi goes around among people, goes to their markets, puts his feet on their rugs or mats, and they don't know him, they don't recognize him, till Allah gives him permission to introduce to him as he gave permission to Yusuf to introduce himself. Also, Muhammad ibn Usman, one of the 4 deputies of Imam in time of Ghaibat al-Sughra, says, according to what Sheikh Tusi in Al-Ghaiba has mentioned and Sheikh Sadik in Man La Yahduru al-Faqih, he says, Wallah, Sahibu hadha al-amr, every year attends Hajj, in the season of Hajj, he sees people and recognizes them. They see him and don't recognize him. In the hadith that we had before from Imam Sadik alayhi salam, the apparent meaning was that he attends this in the season of Hajj. He sees people and people don't see him. But here says he sees people and recognizes them, and people see him and don't recognize him. So what should we then say? Is it a matter of people not seeing him, or it's a matter of people not recognizing him, or it varies? It seems that if we put all the hadiths together, we can come to this conclusion that Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif has a physical life like us. He's on this planet. He lives like us. He eats, he drinks, he sleeps. He may become ill. He may become tired. He goes through all the conditions of life that we go. People may meet him and don't recognize him. This is more common. People may meet him and Allah may cover him from their sights. This is also possible. Maybe this is not the most common experience, but it's possible that sometimes Imam may come to a gathering and only one person would see Imam, or maybe no one would see Imam. He would see them. It depends. But most of the time, if he comes to a gathering, people see him. They don't recognize him. There are also exceptional cases that may people also recognize him. In the time of Ghaiba, there is possibility of meeting Imam. Although many of those people who meet Imam, if they have genuinely met Imam, they may see him and talk to him and later recognize that it was him. But some people, like some great scholars, they may know that it's Imam. It's possible. But the most common thing is that people would not recognize him, but it may come to he may come to their sight. They may see him. He may say salam to them. He may sit next to them. He may come to their markets, to the shrines. So you should not think that Imam has no body like angels. He's just a spirit. Or Imam has body but is invisible, as like some movies. No. He has body. This body is visible. But it is possible, and this has happened even in the past, that sometimes Allah didn't let people to see some prophets. In the story of Prophet Idris, for example, we have this story. If you go to Kamaluddin wa Tamamun Ni'mah, in the section on Prophet Idris, you see that how when the king sent someone to kill him, they couldn't see him. Then he went to hiding after that. Or I want to share with you some verses of the Quran that can be suggesting this. In Surah Yasin and Surah Isra. if you go to Surah Yasin, verse 9, this ayah that is very commonly recited by people, for protection. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. Allah says, we put a kind of sad, a kind of block before them and on their back, behind them. فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ. Then we covered them and made them unable to see. They were blocked. The object was not invisible, but their sight was blocked. It's possible. Also, if you go to Surah Isra, verse 45, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ حِجَابًا مَسْتُورًا. When you recite the Quran, we put between you and people who don't believe in the hereafter a veil which is mastur. Some people say mastur means satir, but we can say mastur means a veil, but the veil itself is not seen. Veil is always satir, but this veil is also mastur. Sometimes we put a barrier that would not let people see beyond, but the barrier is visible. Sometimes the barrier is not visible. So if you go to tafsir, you find this interpretation. I'm not saying it's the only interpretation. You find also hadith that Allah may have blocked the sight of those who didn't believe in the hereafter to be able to see the Prophet and, for example, harm him or annoy him. So the conclusion then would be this, that in the time of Ghaiba, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif is physically alive. He is on this planet. Hujjatullah alal ard. He is the Hujjah of Allah on this earth. He cannot be in another place. When Isa alayhi salam was on the earth, he was Hujjatullah alal ard. But then he gave this responsibility to the next Hujjah of Allah. Allah raised him. But Imam Mahdi is Hujjatullah alal ard right now. So he is on the earth. He is among inhabitants of the earth. He is not hidden in a basement or in a remote island. He goes around. He visits people. He may use different vehicles. He may go on feet. He may ride a horse, a camel. He may take drive a car, for example, or ask someone to give him lift. He may pay for a ticket. He may also, of course, do tayyul arth if needed. He may go, with the blessing of Allah, quickly from one place to another place without using any vehicle. That is also possible. He would not be hesitant to come to our gatherings unless, of course, a sinful gathering. He would never come to a sinful gathering. But if it's gathering of innocent people, he may come, but he would not introduce himself. We may see him, we may not see him. And if we see him, which is most of the time, if he comes to our presence, to our space, but we would not recognize him. Maybe this is I cannot say definitely, but maybe this is 99% of the case that people cannot recognize him when he comes. Not that they cannot see him, they cannot recognize him. We would benefit from his presence anyway. His presence on the earth is a protection, is aman for the earth and its inhabitants. His presence is the channel of Allah's mercy to come to inhabitants of the earth. And we would certainly benefit from him. And if he comes closer to us, like in Hajj or any other chance, if we have that Imam comes to our close, even if we don't recognize him, we benefit from his presence, certainly. But our benefits are not limited to the physical nearness with Imam alayhi salam. Our benefits are more and more possible and available if our heart is tuned towards him. If through ma'rifah and obedience and love, these three, ma'rifah, ta'ah, and mahabbah, which are three elements of wilayah, if we are tuned to him, then we would be the best receptive mode. The best chance that we have for receiving from him is when we have ma'rifah, mahabbah, and ta'ah in the time of ghaibah. Okay, I stop here. If you have questions, we can inshallah receive some of your questions, and then inshallah we have 2 more sessions to continue inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Recording stopped. Thank you very much, Sheikh.
You're welcome.
I believe we have Brother Mustafa who would like to ask a question.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, I cannot recognize the voice.
I said I really appreciate your effort.
Sorry, Brother Mustafa, your audio is not very clear. I don't know if you can improve that, or otherwise maybe type your question and we can read your question out.
Are you using microphone or?
In the meantime, we have a question from Sister Ruqayya.
Yeah.
I could ask Sister Ruqayya to ask her question, please.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
And everybody. So I have a question with regards to the fact that Imam Mahdi, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, has no allegiance to anyone. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What does that mean? And I'm thinking specifically because when you talked about this, you also quoted the ayah that we should not ask for things which, when they are disclosed to us, they might make us sad. Is there a connection between him not having allegiance and to that ayah? And even if there isn't, can you please just elaborate more about the fact that he pays no allegiance? Like, what does that mean?
When they are unjust rulers and there is a figure from Ahlul Bayt with great followership, they will not let them to be free. They will not say, okay, we have taken Khilafah or governance from you, but then we leave you free. They would want them to be part and parcel of their system. They want to use their position in the hearts of people as a support for themselves, and they want to make sure that they would not be their opposition. So they would force them to give bay'ah. If they don't give bay'ah, they have to fight and then they will be killed. Or lots of followers will be killed, or there will be war. So they have to give bay'ah. At least they have to practically agree with them on some terms, at least like ceasefire. At least Imam Hassan has to withdraw from Khilafah and Muawiyah becomes practically the Khalifa. So Imam Mahdi is not supposed to be doing anything against the truth. For others is truth and maslahah. All Imams had to observe maslahah as well. If maslahah was to keep silent, Imam Ali keeps silent for 25 years. If maslahah is to help, he would help them. But Imam Mahdi has to be 100% just showing the truth and justice and not being with any system, because he is part of a universal system that Allah has kept humanity waiting for thousands of years for that. So his account is different, his system is different, the way he deals with things is different. But this is not easy to explain for people, and then it can create questions about caliphs and Muslim unity, etc. So therefore Imams were not very happy to go into all these details. Even when I was explaining, I was still worried that then people would say, for example, what about caliphs, etc. But I hope this much can be said.
Sorry, can I just follow it with another small question, if that's okay?
Yes.
Yes. So this does not. So is it wrong to think that not paying allegiance means that he may not necessarily come to the followers of Ahlul Bayt? Okay, I'm not sure I'm asking that right, but what I'm saying is that might that mean that he has no affiliation to anyone, and that might include people who follow him, if that makes sense?
You mean to be like working for any Shia government?
Yeah, no, so he forms his own government, that I get, and he pays no allegiance to anyone, but so is it wrong to think, or do we have hadiths to support that those who are going to be working with him are, the followers, like the Shia people who follow him necessarily?
When he comes?
Yes.
Of course, then he establishes his own governance. And then Shia, but also maybe some non-Shia will join him. Even in a hadith says that maybe some worshippers of sun and stars may go towards him and change. Some believers may lose their iman. Some people who have no faith, they may start having faith. But what is happening is that the system would be based on truth, on justice, and whoever is happy to be part of that system can join. But he would not be working with any system which is mixed with batil, with falsehood, with injustice.
Okay. Shukran.
You're welcome.
Shukran.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Sheikh. I believe Brother Bulfaqar has a question to ask.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Assalamu alaikum Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Just quickly, I was most interested in the last reason for his ghaiba, which was the fact that it's a kind of a punishment that people were not grateful enough or didn't appreciate his having a hujjah amongst us.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking, according to you, what do you think is the biggest need or challenge that we have in today's time so that we can become more grateful and appreciative of it?
So if we truly listen to the sayings of Ahlul Bayt and their instructions and overcome any kind of prejudice, any kind of bias, any kind of short-sightedness, and just be interested in truth, just be interested in justice, overcome any barriers, then inshallah we can be qualified for being with Imam. But as long as we allow many things which are not supposed to bear on our decisions, shape and form our decisions and our, networking, our, friendship, etc., our decision-making processes, then we are not in a position to be qualified for being with Imam. Because, in the time of previous Imams and Hujjats of Allah, it was easier. Now Allah's conditions are more difficult than before. Like, for example, if we give someone or some community, lots of opportunities and they keep failing and failing, then for the last opportunity, we would ask them to show more commitment. So if we are in the same level of previous people, we would not be given opportunity and blessing of being with Imam. We have to go higher, much higher. At least among believers, there must be a sizable group that they are at such a level of understanding and commitment that they can fully understand will of Imam and implement it without seeing Imam. We need sizable group of people at least to reach that position. Without that, Allah would not be pleased. And no one should expect Imam to take a risk, for example.
Jazakallah, Sheikh.
May Allah bless you, Ahsan.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Brother Azhar has a question to ask.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
For your efforts and Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Towards the end of your session, you mentioned that we benefit from his presence, both as a protective influence and also as a channel for Allah's mercy. So the question is, as Allah's creation, all human beings are potentially vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So is there any reference about this one individual at all times to be the channel from the Quran, or is this from a Hadith? I just want to get to grips with the necessity of having one individual as the sole channel of communication.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, this idea is rooted in the Quran but expanded in the Hadith, that always there must be a hujjah of Allah on the earth, and angels cannot play that role. When Allah said, "Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa," angels didn't say why you need khalifa. They knew that it's impossible that Allah would not have khalifa on the earth when he's creating human beings. They thought maybe they can play this role. But they didn't question or they didn't doubt that there must be Khalifa on the earth. So this Khalifa has been there from Adam up to today and up to the last human being who would be on the earth. There must be a Hujjah of Allah on the earth. And this Hujjah of Allah is sometimes Zahir, sometimes is Batin. But Hujjah of Allah is always there. Also from the Quran we understand that there is always Shahid. With all people, there's always Shahid, witness. We understand from the Quran that with every people there is Hadi, a guide who is not guided by anyone. So there are many things that we can understand from the Quran, but details are mentioned in authentic Hadith that always there has been Hujjah of Allah on the earth. And this is actually one of the things that would give the Shia community a very, a special position. Because as, Henry Corbin said, there is no other community on the earth right now that they believe in a living, godly figure being among humanity. Christians are waiting for coming of Jesus. Jews are waiting for coming of Savior. Many Sunni brothers and sisters say Mahdi is not yet born. Some say he's born, but many say he's not yet born. Hindus, others, they may have concept of Savior, but Shia are the only group that have a very well-known figure. They know his genealogy, they know his father, they know when exactly he was born, what time, where, who were in touch with him, what messages he has sent. We have all these elements, and this gives us a special position. This gives us a special tranquility that although we have Allah and everyone else also has Allah, but we have also Hujjah of Allah, a human being that Allah has definitely and wisely appointed to facilitate for us. أين السبب المتصل بين الأرض والسماء. We have Quran which is coming from heaven to the earth, حبل ممدود من السماء إلى الأرض. And we have the Hujjah of Allah which is from us but connecting us to the heaven. So we have two links with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one coming from there is Quran, Hablullah. The one from here connecting us to Allah is the Hujjah of Allah. Then you never go wrong if you hold on to both of them. So we are in a very gifted position, but we have to be very grateful, of course. We have to be very much appreciative. Each of these things need lots of discussions. I have explained this in some other lectures. I'm sorry I cannot go into details, but I hope at least I gave you a little clue.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brother.
Thank you for everything. Jazakumullah khairan.
May Allah bless you. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan.
We shall witness this we shall witness more of it, inshallah, on this head. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Where are you, brother
Now,
Mustafa?
my question is this, yeah, Sheikh.
Where are you?
You've made mention that.
Pardon?
You've made mention about the Sayyid Imam. you said that with all the ayat Quraniya that you brought and the hadith, at least you can say that 90% that we can see Imam, but we may not recognize him. But my question is this. There's one hadith from one of our scholars' book. It says that Man yadda'i mushahada fa huwa kasibu muftari. That is number one. Number two, ya Sheikh, let us assume that we can see Imam. But I've never met Imam. I don't know how Imam is look like. Like you, Sheikh, I know you now. If I meet you in Nigeria, I will know you are the one. But Imam, I've never met him. How can I know that this is Imam anytime I meet Imam?
You don't need to know he is Imam. When he makes a zuhur, then he introduces himself and it becomes clear. Right now, we don't need to meet him. It's great blessing to meet him, but right now, our guidance does not depend on meeting Imam, and we cannot say whoever meets Imam is better or higher than those who have not met Imam. Maybe there are really very, very pious people that have not met Imam. And maybe there are people that for some reason, maybe there was a special reason, maybe there was a special, I don't know, desperate situation or anything, maybe a prayer, maybe something worked out that they met Imam. But we cannot say they are better than people who didn't meet Imam all the time. And about the first issue, inshallah, we talk about meeting Imam. In the time of Ghaibah, it's possible to see Imam, but you cannot claim that you have access to him which is in your hand. If someone says, I can see Imam anytime I like, tell me what you want from Imam, I will, relay to him and bring the message. This is not accepted. Or anyone who says that Imam's mission started before Sayha, because there are different interpretations of mushahada. We don't accept it. But no scholar of high caliber would have ever said that it's impossible to see Imam. Indeed, all our great scholars, like for example Sheikh Sadik, they have sections in their books about people who met Imam. But we have to be careful not to accept it from people, not to think that whoever claims this is right, or even if they claim this and they are right, it means that they have to be obeyed and followed. No, maybe a simple Muslim, with pure heart, maybe once sees Imam. It doesn't mean that now he becomes our leader. We have to be very careful. Everything has its own manners and guidelines. We don't have such a thing that meeting Imam is a condition, and adequate actually condition, or a necessary condition for being followed, for being a leader or marja, or I don't know, things like this. No, we don't have such a thing. This is something very private, something very important, but not replacing any of the regulations and general laws and norms that we have. Ahsantum, may Allah bless you. Sister Amina, shall we complete the session? Okay, it seems that our session has come to an end. I request all of you to pray for each other and pray for our Imam, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to understand his expectations from us. So maybe we can end with dua faraj. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kull waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا وامن علينا برضاه وهب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيره اللهم ارحم موتانا اللهم اشف مرضانا اللهم اقض حوائجنا بحق محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل. التماس دعاء في أمان الله.